So my name is Miriam Koval, and I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's event. Since 10K's inception, it was over 3 years ago, there have been many requests for events like this to assist a non-professional shadchan through the process of writing shidduchim, which is a major goal of 10K, is that we're not only looking towards the professional shadchan to help make shidduchim, we'd like everybody to step up to the plate, whoever you are, wherever you are, and try and help with the process of shidduchim. So 10K Batei Yisrael has responded by bringing various rabbanim and professionals to share of their vast knowledge of this topic. Tonight, we're very fortunate to hear from actually an old friend of mine, Mrs. Naomi Cohen. We were together in Beis Yaakov, Toronto. I was a couple of years older than her, and I remember Naomi being a vivacious bundle of positive energy, and I'm really excited to hear from her tonight. And Naomi is a sought-after shadchan, and she's also a dating coach, and she will be sharing from her experiences, guidance, and offering tips on how to read shidduchim most effectively. I've been impacted by 10K, and I have been fortunate to have facilitated numerous shidduchim since being inspired by 10K's message. And with tremendous siyata d'shmaya, I feel so grateful to have been able to read shidduchim, to register them with 10K, to have Yisrael ben Yeshayahu Halevi and Elisheva Basya Bas Yechiel Ephraim in mind. My first shidduch that I read, actually, and when I say I felt this extra dose of siyata d'shmaya, I did not tell the people, that I had actually registered the shidduch. And after they got engaged, I mentioned to them, I said, this was the first shidduch that I registered with 10K Batei Yisrael. And the mother froze for a moment, and she said, after you read the shidduch, we were actually on a trip to Eretz Yisrael, and we took they were going to daven at a kever of a friend, and they took, I believe it was a taxi, and the taxi actually let them off at the wrong place at the Beis Olam. And she said she stepped out of the taxi and she was right in front of the kever of Yisrael ben Yeshayahu Halevi. And she just took a moment and she paused and she said some tefillos, and then she moved on and went to the kever that she was there to go to. And it was this unbelievable feeling of tremendous siyata d'shmaya, that there was literally some help from above. Well, there's always help from above, but having read this shidduch, having registered it through 10K Batei Yisrael, having the mother stopped at this kever, that was not, where she was headed to or anything. And I want to encourage everybody to take the time to think about perhaps someone that a shidduch that you have an idea, someone you have an idea for, and go ahead and register it. So this series and the 10K Batei Yisrael overall, it's Le'iloi Nishmas, Yisrael ben Yeshayahu Halevi, and Elisheva Basya Bas Yechiel Ephraim. And please have them in mind when you're reading the shidduchim, and log your suggestions onto 10kbateiyisrael.org to help us reach 10,000 shidduchim in their memory. A special thank you to the West Coast Shidduchim for helping to make this series possible. To find out more about this organization providing chizuk and resources for singles and their families, you can email cshidduchim@gmail.com. Again, that's cshidduchim@gmail.com. I want to mention that you are welcome to put questions in the chat, and the last 15 to 20 minutes will be reserved for answering those questions. And without further ado, Mrs. Naomi Cohen.
Okay, so thank you, Miriam. It's always nice seeing you. I'd like to thank 10K Batei Yisrael for asking me to come on. I'd like to thank my friends at West Coast Shidduchim and all the wonderful things you do. So thank you. And I'd like to thank most of all the audience for taking the time tonight to come out and to show how you want to make a difference in helping the shidduch crisis, and you want to devote the time and learn, whether you're a shadchan already, so that you can learn some new skills and walk away with this, or learn or gain the confidence and learn how to really go about making a shidduch and what goes into it. And again, our goal tonight is to get everybody out there to make one shidduch at a time, so impact someone else's life. One shidduch, you go on to second shidduch, which makes a third shidduch, and that's how it goes. Okay, I'm going to begin tonight. I'm going to state the obvious, but so often we tend to forget that really this is about Hashem, who makes you the shaliach. He, like Miriam had said, the siyata dishmaya of the story of this woman who showed up at the kever. It's really Hashem who puts you in the moment, who puts the ideas into your head, who gives you the opportunities, whether it works out, whether it doesn't work out, but it's really Hashem who goes behind this. And every shidduch, you just have to remember that you're a shaliach. And with this in mind, it'll give you the confidence that if it didn't work out, then that's okay, because you don't know what the person on the phone, or you don't know where from writing the shidduch, how far it could go, and where it could lead to. Okay, so with that said, I'd like to begin. I'm going to share a couple of tips with you that it took me many years to develop. And I wish somebody would have told me this when I first started making shidduchim. The first thing I'd like to suggest to start with is you cannot get emotionally involved. I remember when I was young, I used to make these shidduchim, and I used to get so tense that these mothers, they just didn't understand, and the boys didn't understand, and very often I would get so uptight that it would literally affect my family and myself and my day, and it could literally take over you emotionally. And I remember my husband telling me, like, Naomi, this is it. It's either you're going to continue doing shidduchim, or you're going to emotionally detach and get back to this idea of Hashem's in charge. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And if it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. By me stressing and by me worrying about it is not going to make the shidduch happen. And I had to really think about what that meant, because it was really walking into my life. And I know many shadchanim who are so tense, and you find yourself in situations that if only you could make the other person understand the other side, and if only you could change this, and if only you could change that, the shidduch, can happen. And we have to learn to step back. I remember when I was younger, I had worked for my aunt, who was a doctor. And I remember she was such a kind woman. But I remember I was a secretary for her. And I remember, patients coming into her office. And I remember that they were going to get diagnosed with something very serious. And I remember she would have the stoic face, and she would talk with them, and they would come out, and she would go on to the next patient. And that was it. She just continued. And I remember asking her once, how do you not get emotionally involved? Like, I was crying for these people knowing their lab results. And I remember thinking, how does she do it? And I'll never forget, she said to me, you cannot get emotionally attached. Whatever's meant to be for these people, I'm just here to help them. And that's all I can do. And with those wise words, I have to say, this is how I approach making shidduchim. It's just this approach of, what can I do to help? How far can I take it? And then I do not allow it to get into my personal life, which takes time to develop. Okay, so that's first and foremost. Okay, another very important point that, again, I've developed is, most of all, credibility. Some people have this idea that they're just going to shoot out 100 ideas. Now, again, there are shadchanim who do this, and that's their style. Everybody is going to develop their own style. My style is more building confidence, building trust, and most of all, building credibility. To this, I mean, before I suggest a shidduch, I want to earn somebody's trust. So, like I said, instead of sending out 100 names and bombarding them, I listen. I call them up. What is your child, or what are you looking for? And and um, I listen. I listen to actually what they're saying, not based on the resume, not based on what they're at professionally. But when you hear what they want, when you get an idea of what you want, then you're able to be most effective. And each idea should be thought of, each idea should be nurtured. If I call up a boy and he's busy, he'll say, oh, just send me the resume. I will tell him, I'm sorry, you continue dating and you'll get back to me if it didn't work out. This way, he says, oh, you're credible. You're not just throwing out 100 ideas. Each idea is an idea within itself. And in fact, people appreciate your honesty and they appreciate your trust. And most of all, do not say what you think the other person wants to say, to hear what you want to say. Most of all, it's important to be honest. That goes with the credibility. Some people think they have this need to exaggerate and to make the girl or this boy or the single larger than life. When you're honest and realistic, it's okay. The person will listen, because sometimes you could build a shidduch so much that when they actually go out, you've just created somebody better than actually exists, and there's this down and a disappointment. And that way, when you talk to the single, you're really giving them a really true idea of who it is that they can potentially meet. Another suggestion that I'd like to offer is to listen. Listen to who you're talking to. Don't project. Like when somebody calls you up, this is okay. We're going to go a little bit ahead of the game, but this is important. Do not give your input on what somebody else wants to hear. Like meaning, don't project yourself, your own hashkafas. Do not project your own experiences. Listen to what they're saying. You're going to go so much further because it's about the single. It's not about you. And very often I'll have singles calling me. I do a lot of coaching, telling me that these shadchanim, they project their own lives, their own negative experiences, their own positive experiences, and they feel lost. They feel lost. Like, wait, isn't this about me, the single? I'm the one dating. Why is a shadchan pushing me and telling me about things that they experienced? Why is the shadchan telling me about their own hashkafas? This has nothing to do with you. It only has to do with the single. And also listen. Sometimes shadchanim could be in over their head, and tell them, this is a great situation. Either I'm going to ask somebody, a mentor that you may have, or call somebody, and we're going to get into this a little bit more. We're going to develop how to ask somebody else a little bit more experienced how to take over. But listening to what the single wants, again, brings you back to the credibility, brings you back to the trust, and therefore you really have a chance of impacting the single and the potential shidduch. Okay, then we're going to get on to another idea is honesty. I mentioned it. Do not exaggerate. I know I said this previously. You have to be upfront, meaning if there is something wrong, other shadchanim may not agree. Every shadchan has their own style. But to me personally, I am a little bit more upfront. I much prefer to state something that they're going to find out and to see if there's a comfort level. For example, if somebody has a stutter, I know some shadchanim will say, don't say anything, just let them go out. But again, to me, that's back to the credibility. If somebody say has a stutter, or there's something different, or their family background might be a little bit different, I personally, I do state it because I want the single to get comfortable with it, because they're going to find out regardless. So I usually build up the shidduch, and I talk about the single. I talk about, what's, everyone has pros and cons or whatever. My style is to just be honest. And then I bring up, by the way, would you be comfortable if there's a, if there's a stutter, would you be comfortable if, the home, this is going on in the home? That way it doesn't come as a shock and they don't call you back. Oh, I found out, she has a stutter. I found out she comes from the most dysfunctional family. This way, it gives them time to absorb, because they're just going to find out. You cannot hide these situations. Now, there are some halachos. For example, if somebody has a medical issue, if somebody's, let's say, diabetic, for example, if somebody, there are some issues that I will not disclose, but I do make sure that the single will disclose it. I believe the halacha is on the third or fourth date, you have to disclose certain medical or mental or certain issues. And that way you're connected and you get close enough that if you want to go ahead and continue the relationship, then you've already built a relationship and you know what, this isn't so bad. I like the person. I'm willing to go through life because I already gave them a chance. So to that, there are, the singles, I do make sure that the singles do disclose it if I know that there's an issue of such. It's a very fine line. And what I want to get into next is that every shadchan or you don't even have to be a shadchan, but if you are suggesting a shidduch, I really do recommend one Rav who you feel comfortable opening up to, who you feel comfortable talking to, because you will find yourself in situations. I'm constantly asking Shilas on how do I approach this? Do I say this? Do I not say this? You get yourself into very sticky situations, and knowing that you ask somebody who's more familiar, then you know that you did your best, you asked your shaila, and you proceed according to as you're told. Your Rav is really going to be your best interest to you. Okay, and again, most of all, there's trust, and with trust comes confidentiality. Very often, we love to share who we've set up. We love to share our stories. We love to share, this exciting time that we have this couple going out. But very often people tend to forget these couples are real couples. They're real people and they have a right to their privacy. To me, my husband and I, like my husband knows that if I'm setting somebody up, he's the last person to find out, because it's not his place. He respects it. And that way people come up to him, they say things to him. He has no idea what they're talking about, he has no idea what they're talking about. But out of respect for the singles, to you, it might be a good story, or to you, it might be exciting to say, oh, who is setting up so-and-so and so-and-so, but maybe they didn't want you to share. In fact, I'm so private that I've set up a secretary, my father's secretary, and, they were going out. Okay, today, Baruch Hashem, they're married with many kids. They were going out, and she had asked my father time off to take off of work. And she said, oh, I need to go to Detroit. I have a date. And he goes, oh, it's such a small world. I have a daughter who happens to be living in Detroit. And she's like, your daughter's setting me up. I'm staying at her house. So it's a cute little story, but the moral is she felt so good that he had no idea that I ever said anything to him, because, again, you're gaining that trust, you're gaining that credibility of, oh, this is safe. I could share with you. And later on, it'll trickle into an advantage of that safety net. When it comes time for questions, they know that their struggles or their questions have a very safe place, and you can really talk things out. Okay. One of the hardest things of writing shidduchim is the follow-up. Once you make a shidduch, and again, I encourage everybody, just make one shidduch. You know what? I'm going to backtrack. I apologize for one more thing. When I first started making shidduchim, believe it or not, even today, sometimes I get very intimidated. It's very hard to pick up that phone call and think, why would this person trust me? Even today, I've made Baruch Hashem many, many, many shidduchim, and I think, why would they listen to me? Why should I make up the call? What if they say no to me? Then I'm going to feel rejected. And again, it goes back to this: it's not about you; it's about the idea. But I have to say, my mother, since I was a little girl back in the day, we had something called a phone book. And I still remember to this day, and this is what I do for myself, and you'll develop something you'll do for yourself. But before I pick up that phone, I remember sitting in the kitchen, wanting to, I remember asking my mother, oh, something about the library. She'd say, look it up in the phone book, make a call. And I remember thinking how to call somebody else. I remember being so nervous, and she would make me call. And even though she'd say, they can't see you, they don't know you, just make the call. And I remember developing the skill of just picking it up. So what if I say it wrong? So what if it comes out wrong? But it really helped me develop this sense of picking up the call, especially in today's day and age, where we're so used to texting, we're so used to, communicating with simplicity of words. To me, the most effective way of writing a shidduch is picking up the phone, making the connection. Don't worry if you're going to get rejected. Don't worry if they say, no, it's not for me, but thank you anyway. Every single person appreciates a call, even if they're inundated in calls. They appreciate that you thought of their thinking about me. And that's the most important. Very often people call me to write a shidduch. And I'd say, well, why don't you write it yourself? They're like, oh, we don't know how to. And I always tell them, as long as you know how to pick up a phone, and just like you're telling me why you believe that it's a good idea, there's no professionalism here. It's about one person picking up the phone and calling another person and just checking in. Perhaps you'd like to hear an idea. What makes the idea worth pursuing? So again, this is back to the listening and the trust. So you call up you have to first find out what the single is looking for. And this might sound very obvious to some people, but you'd be surprised how many people just call up and make an idea without knowing who the single is, and what they're looking for. So you want to first call up and you're going to say, hi, I'd like to know what you're looking for, what your son or your daughter's looking for. And that way you could really verify, was it a good idea that I thought of? And if you didn't think it was a good idea, you could say, thank you so much for sharing. I thought I had an idea. No, my idea was not, what I had thought, and you could explain why. But for example, people call me up, let's say writing my own daughter a shidduch. They'll call me up because they know me and they don't know my daughter. And very often, I'll say to them, why did you think of the idea? And you have to be prepared to answer that question. So again, listen to what they're looking for. Are there common denominators? Logistically, does it make sense? Sometimes you can have people across America who are not into traveling. Does it make sense? Somehow, okay, and somehow there has to be something important. I remember I once made a shidduch. I was setting up this one boy over and over. I kept setting him up and nothing was working. Finally, he came to my house. And again, this is the idea of listening to the single. He came to my house and I sat him down. I'm like, what are you looking for? This is after speaking to his mother for several months. And she was describing a very specific type of girl. And this boy actually described the complete opposites of what the mother, what she had wanted, I guess, for herself or for her son. He wanted a totally different personality, a totally different hashkafa, completely different. So basically, right after we had the conversation, I called up the mother. I had an idea, and it worked. it worked. And I remember seeing her at the wedding. I was so, she was so, we were all so happy. And I said, Mazel Tov. And she said, well, at least he's happy, which is a terrible, terrible story. But we do have to understand that when we write shidduchim, you also have to speak and make sure that this is what the actual single is looking for. It's not necessarily about the parent. Again, I understand there's a vast, there are different groups here. There's older singles, younger singles. Of course, I'm talking about the younger singles, but we have to be honest about who we're setting up. And again, listening to what your single wants. And again, that was just about the listening. This is what he wants. And it just clicked. Okay. So next we're going to move on to how to pursue your idea. Okay, so again, you're going to see first of the singles available. Some of you might be laughing, oh, of course, that's so obvious. Very often people will call up and just start writing a shidduch, and it could be an amazing idea. But if they're not available, then you've just wasted your time and you will feel silly. So again, you just start with, is the single available? I'm going to go on to how to respond with a no and how to respond with a yes. If the other person on the phone doesn't want to pursue, don't badger them. I mean, again, this is from my own perspective. I never badger. I never say, no, you have to listen to me. It's the best idea ever. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. If it's not meant to be, it won't happen. So by you badgering, again, is going back to your credibility. Chances are you're going to make your single or the parent very uncomfortable, and you're going to lose your credibility. Again, this is all back to trust and credibility. You're going to, just say, thank you so much. I understand. And if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. I recently made a shidduch. There was a couple that the mother was not listening to this particular girl. And nobody was able to get it through. And somehow this girl is a friend of my daughter's, and she happened to be in town. And she just said, like, can you just say, I would love to have a date. They wanted to go on. She just wanted to have a date. She goes, please, I'm here. I'm in Detroit. I just get me a date. And I happen to have known that this girl was already suggested to this other boy. It wasn't from me. It was suggested many times. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm going to give you the date. Well, let me see. And I called up the mother, and it happened to be the timing was right. And Baruch Hashem, I was the shaliach. It was a successful shaliach. So just because it might be a note to you, sometimes you hear a name through several shadchanim or several people, and it just takes one person for it to click. And I just want to reiterate, the goal is for a successful shidduch. It doesn't matter who the shadchan is. Our goal is to have a couple happily married in a happy marriage. It's not about you chalking one up. It's not about you, the shadchan. It's about a successful marriage. And again, whoever is meant to be the shaliach is going to be that shaliach. Okay, so we're going to go on. Okay, that was your no. Now we're going to get a yes. What do you do? So you take the information, you call the other side, and you share the information. A lot of encouragements, and now you got your date. You got your yes. Okay, Miriam, I'm going to ask if there's any questions up until now, because I realize that there's a lot of ideas that we're going through, and I don't want to lose track if we have a few ideas, and then we'll continue. I just feel like.
Yes, so we do have some questions, or we can start from the questions. I think the first most popular one is, Naomi, how can I get in touch with you? You're doing such an incredible job. You've got so much knowledge and so much wisdom, and we want to talk to you, be it for dating coaching or perhaps about a shidduch. So what is the best way for people to reach you?
Okay, first of all, I'm very, very happy to help anybody. You can all email me at mrsmrs.c.detroit,
Why not?
@gmail.com. I'm very happy. I do not charge. This is something that I feel is such an opportunity to help whoever needs help coaching, even coaching if you're just starting to become a shadchan. Again, just it is so important. If you need a little, coaxing, if you need a little, pep talk, please, please, please call me. Absolutely. Email me and I will give you my cell phone number. You can text me. I'll give you my text. You can only text, do not call because I do not pick up the phone. 248-925-2147. Only text. And again, I'm so happy to help hold your hand until you are comfortable to develop whatever method you're going to develop to read shidduchim and to give you the encouragement, because every single person here can read a shidduch. It has to start somewhere. There's no schooling or education. All it takes is a smile and listening and a little bit of, talking on the phone. Okay, next question.
Okay, so let's move on up. Let's see. Okay, well, it looks like we answered a couple of them just by giving them that information. But here we have a question. I've tried to read shidduchim and so far it hasn't worked out. So what are you going to tell someone who has tried, I'm assuming probably numerous times, and she's saying just hasn't gone so far? So now what?
Okay, so first of all, you never know. Okay, so it's funny because I was going to do that next is, it's very common to get no's. Very, very common. People think, oh, you make so many shidduchim. Yes, we make lots of shidduchim, but guess what? We also get no's. We also get, we get a lot of shidduchim that just peter out, do not work out, do not give up. Perhaps the common denominators aren't adding up. Maybe you're not presenting why you think. Now, again, sorry, Miriam, could you just explain again? Was it because did she feel that?
So she didn't really give a whole lot of detail, only that she's tried.
She's tried. So does she not?
She so far hasn't been successful.
So her shidduchim haven't been successful, or she hasn't gotten past getting a yes? Because
I'm just going to guess from the question that she hasn't gotten a yes. It's just because there's not a whole lot of information. Okay. So we'll make that assumption.
Maybe after listening to what we've done tonight, maybe by using some of the tips that I've developed over the years and I've shared, maybe this will clarify more goals and just
you're also giving a couple more sessions, right? You're doing so there's going to be a lot more to learn.
There's a lot more to go. Oh, this is just the surface. Really, I was going to take the questions at the end, and I realized I have such a program tonight that by the end of this night, perhaps these questions aren't going to be as applicable. So I just wanted to pause for a minute. So if there's anything else, I'm going to continue.
Do you want to continue?
Yeah. Can I ask an important question? I'm in the middle of reading a shidduch, okay? It's important, I'm sorry. I appreciate you letting me speak to you. I've been dealing with the mother and the son for at least a year. Nothing has worked. Finally, because she only wants a certain type of girl, and I see it and I send her exactly, but it doesn't work. She finds fault in it, the location, whatever. So finally they said, the boy, they looked at the resume, they made their phone calls, they hishtadlus. I say, okay, can I now, this is like 4 days into his investigation. I said, can I now send a resume to the girl? I don't hear back. 1 day, 2 days, I'm not getting a good feeling. Then I asked her before Shabbos, I said, well, what's going on? So she says, well, her son, when I first started it, I asked, is he available? And I was told by both of them, yes, because that's my first question. And so it comes out that he said yes to a girl. The girl is taking at least 2 to 3 weeks to give an answer. They decided to say yes to me. And then lo and behold, the girl answers, saying that her mother was out of town. She didn't get in touch with her mother. I mean, and now he went out with her. What am I to do?
Be honest.
No, I said, I didn't give the resume yet to the girl. So I said,
So then there's nothing to do.
yeah, but there
So-
should be, I think in the shidduch world, there should be an amount of time that a boy reviews, X amount of time for the boy to review the resume, and X amount of time for the girl to get back. You can't hold up this other girl that I'm holding. She's in limbo because she can't give her resume to anybody else. She wasn't giving it out. She was being the good person here.
Okay.
Not
Right. So, okay. So I'm
the
going to address
second girl.
I want to go on with my program, but standing on one foot, did this girl know?
No, the second girl does not know. I didn't
Okay.
present him.
Okay. So she's not being held up.
She is, because the shadchans, there are two other shadchans involved, and we're not giving her other dates.
No girl should be, no. You just, then you call back whoever, first of all.
I'm representing the boy.
Sorry?
I'm representing the boy.
Representing the boy. Oh, you're doing this with another shadchan?
Yes. Who's representing the second girl.
So just be honest.
I did be honest, but
Okay.
how do I go back? I mean, what is the proper way? Should the boy have gone back to the first girl who first decided 2.5 weeks later to give a yes, or he has nothing to do with her anymore and goes and moves on to the second girl?
So to be honest with you, he should have told you I'm waiting back for an answer.
But they don't. And this is my
So
issue is numerous times have happened to many shadchanim.
You know,
I
I'm
mean,
wondering
this-
if we should have a question and answer series of its own so that you can finish your program, because I know
Yeah,
we don't have a
okay.
lot of time left.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a really fabulous question. And I wonder if maybe we can think about doing that as a separate class, maybe questions and answers.
Right. These
Okay,
are
I'm
really-
sorry.
No, it's okay. And these are the pitfalls of what happens when you read shidduchim. And in fact, every shadchan has their own style. So it gets a little bit tricky sometimes when you read it with somebody else. I'll give you one story that I was going to give anyways. That was going to be part of my program tonight. I remember I read a shidduch with another shadchan. So I was representing the boy and she was representing the girl. This boy had a stutter. And again, I am going to go back to our program, but this will just give you a little bit of an understanding. Okay. So just as more of an idea of writing shidduchim with another person, which I was gonna add it now. And remember, this boy had a stutter and he had gone out with a girl and the shadchan said, yes, she had a nice time. And so they went out on a second date and yes, she had a nice time. And when it came to the third date, so I was telling him, yeah, she had a nice date. She had a nice date. And he was getting all worked up. And then by the third date, the shadchan said, no, she's not interested. And I said, what do you mean she's not interested? You kept giving me the idea that she was enjoying herself. So what happened was she goes, oh, well, I kept pushing her and telling her, you have to feel bad because he has a stutter. Okay, again, this doesn't really address what you had mentioned, but I'm going to throw it in here because you did bring up the idea of working with another shadchan. You know, when you're working with somebody, just make sure that both parties are equally on the same page. And I remember being very, very upset because she wasn't being honest with me and she was pushing this girl to, poor girl, she was uncomfortable and she was making her feel bad and she didn't realize by every date this other girl was giving him, she was building his expectations and his excitement. She should have just pulled back. And it's better to say, I'm sorry, she had a nice time, but it's not for me, than to be getting too far. But then again, that's a little story of when you're working with another shadchan, you have to make sure that you're on the same page and you're upfront. You don't know. Okay. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that tonight. Okay. So now we're going to continue into the protocols. Again, this might be very familiar with some of you who are already shadchanim. But I'm going to address it for those of you who are curious how the protocols go once both sides get a yes. Now we all know that we all live in our different hashkafic boxes. Some are yeshivish, some are modern Orthodox, some are, we all come from different protocols. Some are from out of town, some are in town, and our protocols are going to be completely different. I'm going to begin with the younger group. So first of all, in the more yeshivish circles, they start with Dor Yesharim. Please make yourselves familiar with Dor Yesharim. The way I do it is I just text the information back and forth really quick. It's the date of birth. You do not need the year of the date of the Dor Yesharim, and the numbers. You give it back and forth. You call in, you get the yes, and you're done. That way, again, a benefit is if and I've known this story to happen many times, that the couple does not do Dor Yesharim right away. They get emotionally involved, and unfortunately, they're told that they're not compatible, and then you have to deal with an emotional breakup or just bracing yourself for the best. So just get that out of the way. It's so easy. It's a phone call. It's exchanging numbers. Remember somebody, a woman once telling me, I'm not giving you this number. It's so private. And I remember thinking, like, you don't trust my, it's just a text. All it is you're a number and a text. Let's exchange it, get it out of the way. That is the best. Okay. Next, when making a date, try to avoid back-to-back dates. Okay, so of course I'm going to discuss an out-of-town perspective just because I am myself from out of town. Sometimes a girl goes in quickly for a weekend, or even, and she wants to get in as many dates as she can. Try to avoid it, because when you're back-to-back, like if it's a Motzi Shabbos and a Sunday night, you're not doing anyone any benefit. Better to do one date and to come back, because a back-to-back date means one long date. Get yourself a little excited for the date. Get the single wanting to come back for a little bit more. When you date back-to-back, it's long. You've already spoken. There's only so much you can say. Even if you're living in town and it's just easy because you're working and you have the weekends, try your best to avoid the back-to-back. And again, this is more addressing the out-of-town shidduchim. But very often I'll have in-town shidduchim where the girl is on a busy work schedule and she'll say, okay, you know what, I have the next night available, or she's in school, or she's interning, she's a nurse. It's much better for the in-towners to go out, let's say twice a week, or out-of-towners, go out on a Thursday night, go out on a Sunday, but get your couple excited to see each other. And okay, that's it. Okay, and then I always advise for the first date, just limit it to 2 hours, just enough to see if you're attracted, just enough to see if you have what in common. Recently, I got a call from a girl I'm coaching. She said, there's nothing to talk about on the first date. So again, this is more coaching, but you will get these questions. And I said, well, why don't you ask him what he does in the summer? And she goes, I already know that. I have it on the resume. Why would I ask him? So I told her, well, I said, what does he do? So he works in Nura. So I said, okay, then it could lead to some of your experiences. So again, sometimes you have to walk singles through as a shadchan, just how to make your date flow. It's only 2 hours. The girls and boys, they shouldn't be shy to ask questions. It's very important as a shadchan. Maybe this is my coach hat, but I tell all the shadchanim out there, just to speak to your single. Don't forget to say, to remind them, again, this is the younger crowd. Well, when they pose a question, how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? Because sometimes you get nervous or you forget and you end up only talking about yourself. It's important for the shadchan to remind the single that, just to, ask, I mean, obviously you're not going to ask every last question back, but to bring in the other into a date is a small dating tip. Another small dating tip I give the girls sometimes, don't forget to ask for a break for the washroom, for the bathroom. These are just, even though you don't have to be a coach, it's just, if you the girls feel so comfortable because they come back to me and they say, oh, Mrs. Cohen, I'm so happy you brought it to my attention. And then the boys will be so happy because they actually had a bathroom break and they were too embarrassed to ask for it. These are little nuances that actually help the date go better. Sometimes I tell the girl, okay, you're going to order a drink because you have to order a drink. A lot of girls don't want to. And then you're going to have your bracha. What do? Do you make the bracha quiet or do you make the bracha loud? And again, as a shadchan, you're just giving tips for the singles to be comfortable on the date. That's all you're doing. I don't tell them how to make their bracha, but so many times the girls come back so relieved that they had this awareness of these little, like I said, nuances as what to expect, what's going to happen, and how it's going to play out. So just again, just getting them comfortable. Okay, then of course, we're talking about the younger yeshivish crowd, it goes back, yes and no. And eventually after several dates, they exchange the numbers and, it starts to develop on their own. And then it comes time to wrap up. Okay. Sometimes I'll have couples like a boy or girl coming to me and saying, it was okay. It was okay. And again, you don't want to push anybody, but at the same time, you want to encourage them. And sometimes I'll say, okay, well, what did you like about the boy or the girl? And they'll say, I like the smile. I like their laugh. I like their personality. And I'll tell them, okay, not their personality, but like, I like they crack jokes every once in a while. And then I tell them, okay, so on your next date, try to focus on one thing that you appreciated. And again, this sounds so obvious, but so many of my shidduchim, the boys and girls both will come back and say, oh, you know what? I was able to focus on his smile, or I was able to focus on her eyes, and it was able to get them through enough to be able to get comfortable and to interact, and eventually they became comfortable, and the overall attraction started to grow in them, and they were able to get back to get past the initial well, I didn't think I was so comfortable in whatever area it was. Like sometimes a boy or girl could have a weird laugh and it could just make them nervous. I do want to say sometimes a girl will feel uncomfortable on a date, and I guess we could get a little bit into red flags. Okay, I'm just going to digress a little bit. Let's say a girl will come back that she wasn't so comfortable on the date. We have to listen, because sometimes everybody's so scared. We live in this world that we're so open with our emotions. Sometimes it's nothing, sometimes it's something. So as a shadchan, you have to listen to what are they saying. You have to listen to, a red flag could be, let's say I had a girl say to me, you know what? He was only talking when he talked to me. He looked everywhere but my face. I seriously, I've gotten this many times. And that's when I tell the girl, okay, obviously, don't continue. This is a coaching tip. So of course that would be a red flag. But then, okay, I'm just going to digress. What would you do? I get very, very often, I'll get the question, then do you tell the boy? Do you not tell the boy? What I would do with that after, I would actually not tell the boy to bring it to his attention, just because if this is an issue that a boy has, his wife has to be oblivious to it or not mind it. And therefore you cannot change anybody. So I guess this is going to bring us back to, when your single comes back and talks over the date with you, you have to really listen to what they're saying to you. Sometimes it's nothing. I had a boy once accidentally leave his wallet on a date, and the girl's like, okay, he's cheap. This is it. I'm not going out with him. I happen to have known the boy personally. He really did forget his wallet. So I was able to, encourage her to go on to the next date. So again, you have to, really listen to what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Continue asking people as to, like mentors or banim, or reach out to me, when is it, when do you encourage and when do you not encourage? Okay. And, when do you walk away? And again, just remind everybody, just to remind your singles, don't forget, if you're not comfortable with the boy or the girl, he or she are on the best behavior. So however they are now, you're only going to get comfortable. So if you didn't like how they treated you, or if you didn't like, if you felt a little bit uncomfortable, this is them at their best. And, you know, let's just take that into, you know, okay. Miriam, are we 5 more minutes?
Okay, yeah, we're just about 5 minutes left. So do you want to use the last 5 minutes for questions?
Yes, yes, happily so, yes.
Okay, so for an out-of-town couple, if you know after the first date that there isn't enough interest on the boy's end for him to make a trip out of town to the girl, would you push a quick second date while the girl is still in town?
Okay, is this about, like you're saying, would you encourage a quick back-to-back?
Exactly. Like you're saying that back-to-back is not typically recommended. However, sometimes when people are traveling in and you know that it wasn't great, so that single is not going to travel to the other city another time. So do you try and encourage just one more back-to-back?
Yeah, that was my question, because you know the boy's not going to come back in, but what's the girl going to do? Come back, go home, come right back in?
I would. I mean, again, every shadchan is going to have their style. Every shadchan, there's a, you know, everyone, Miriam, I'd be curious what you would do. In my experience, I personally would encourage the girl to come back, or to take off work, or to take off school and have her stay, and to do that one extra date. That's my recommendation. But there are rules to out of town dating. Meaning if a girl is flying in for a boy,
Usually a second date is
she
accepted.
automatically gets 2 dates unless she says no. So if she felt that she needed a second date to, you know, to make it happen, she's going to have that second date. Is that?
So you're just saying it shouldn't be so quickly?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
no, send her back. And if it's no, then it's no, but do not, yeah, no, that's my own personal, Miriam, maybe you have your own perspective on that. I have never had success with
I
back-to-back.
thought the accepted thing was 2 dates on one trip. Like once the girl goes back.
Yes. So when the girl books her ticket, she's going to book her ticket for a Thursday and Motzei Shabbos date, or a Sunday and a Tuesday date. Yeah.
Right.
I think
You're
that's
just
the
not
ideal
put
way.
together.
She
Okay.
can be prepared to have 2 dates. She has to clear her schedule. Right?
I think in an ideal world, that is the best way to do it. If you can do it over a weekend, there's going to be times when it's just not feasible
100%.
for whatever reason. And then I think if you can get in that second date, even if it's back to back, you're still better off than just having a one and a done. Because a lot of times after that one, they're not necessarily going to travel unless it goes really well.
Right. But if the girl does come back, again, this is everybody's different style. Back to back is fine. But if the boy wasn't crazy about it, don't you, okay, whatever it is, it just, everybody has their own style. Yeah.
Okay. Should the 2-hour first date include travel time to wherever they're going? So when you're saying a first date should be 2 hours, what does that 2 hours include? Is that from door to door, from the time he picks her up until the time he brings her back home?
Great question. I guess it depends on the distance of where they're going. But I would recommend 2 hours of just talking time. That's my own personal, Miriam. I don't know what you do. But I think 2 hours is substantial for, you know, for talking the first time.
Okay. Here we have a very good question. Who do you contact for an older single, the single or the parent?
That's an amazing question. Personally, I try to get to the single as quick as I can. Sometimes even you have younger singles, I will even ask parents, do you mind if I speak to your child? The more contact you have with the single, the more success you probably will have, just because then you could really understand the need, you could really understand the wants, and you could really understand, you know, you're talking to somebody, you're not talking to somebody who may not understand the needs or wants of the older single.
My experience has been when I speak with a single directly, I get so much more clear information. I'll typically just let the parents know or ask permission. Are you okay with me talking to your daughter or to your son? But I find that very helpful when you can speak with the single directly. And obviously you want to involve the parents in the process.
Right. Right.
Okay, now I'm assuming this is going back when you spoke about making the phone call versus an email, a text. So somebody wrote, how about emailing a single?
You could email a single. I find just with today's communication, everybody is so quick and not everybody responds to their emails right away. So if you can, if you want to, but I find that there's more of a delayed response when you're emailing. And again, that idea of picking up the phone and making that initial contact is if you want to correspond through email, then just say, hi, make the initial contact and say, do you mind if we can correspond through email? So at least they know to look and to check. But just emailing back and forth, I have zero experience in. And yeah, I don't know how that would work out.
Okay, so we're going to wrap it up because we're at 10 o'clock. I just wanted to end off going back to your initial thought about not getting emotionally involved. And something that really helps me is we did an initiative here in Cleveland where we paired up couples with singles to work on their behalf. Shortly after the initiative began, we started seeing a lot of engagements in our city. But interestingly enough, it was not necessarily the singles who were getting engaged as a result of the couples who were setting them up. So however, there was this, like I say, significant upward trend of engagements. And we had a event with this initiative where shadchanim came and people that were working with the singles. And Rabbi Hirschfeld from Cleveland, he came to speak. And I never like quoting people, but if I understood him correctly, this is what he said. And if I didn't understand him correctly, it's still amazing because it's great. It's great. So he said that just the act of hishtadlus opens up pipelines of bracha and siyata d'shmaya. So when you make that phone call, when you take the initiative, it's just what you're doing is opening up pipelines for bracha siyata d'shmaya to come down in the realm of shidduchim, in the area of shidduchim. It's not about us. It's not about us getting emotionally involved. And obviously it's a challenge because you put your heart and your soul into it. And sometimes it is gut-wrenching and we do our best, but just to really keep in mind, this is about us doing avodas hakodesh. We are opening up pipelines of bracha siyata d'shmaya just by trying our best, and whatever happens, happens. And ultimately, it's not up to us. Exactly like what you said, Naomi, it's about we're doing our job. We're trying the best that we can to help, to assist, and the results are whatever is meant to be, whatever Hashem wants, it's what's going to happen. And just to close with one more concept, sometimes I think, there's so many people that reach out, you want to help everybody, and odds are that you're not going to be successful making a shidduch for every person that comes your way. But what you could do is you can always share a kind word. You can always be nice. You can always boost somebody, tell them something nice. They'll send you their resume and picture, great resume, you look beautiful in the picture, whatever it is, you can always be nice. You can always boost someone it doesn't take more than 30 seconds. So with that in mind, Naomi, I really want to thank you. It was so helpful, so clear, and we're looking forward to the next 3 weeks. And thank you so much.
Okay, fabulous. I look forward to seeing you next week.